Tonight, who is Alva Baptiste to the St. Lucia Labour Party? MPs on the government side want to know. Brant Jean to receive an award from a US-based law enforcement institution. And a former electoral commissioner in St. Lucia calls on the Dominican government to get up to speed like St. Lucia with its electoral process. The details of these stories and more are coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovelace and Amy Joseph.
Good night. It is Wednesday, the 27th of November 2019. Welcome to the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. We're on Flow, channel 117, also being simulcast on Kiss FM radio. You can watch via our website. It's www.caribbeanhottv.com or watch on our free Caribbean Hot FM mobile app. I'm Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. A sitting of Parliament without some picong, or as we say in the local parlance, power jeté, is simply unheard of. The customary verbal sparring was alive and well in the House of Assembly on Tuesday. Members on the governing side, more specifically Guy Joseph, had some questions regarding Labrie MP Alva Baptiste. Joseph requested to know the status of the former First Deputy political leader within the SLP. The party's National Council, held last month, saw Dr. Ernest Hilaire assuming the post of First Deputy Leader after gaining the confidence of the party's delegates. Leader of the opposition, Philip J. Pierre, fired this retort at Joseph.
He is the parliamentary representative for Labrie. Third time, three-star general, he'll win the fourth time and the fifth time. That's what he
Honorable member, don't get distracted.
No, I'll just answer his question. Because you see, he could not answer my question this morning. He still hasn't answered it, but I can answer his. And any question any of them ask me, I can answer.
Proceed, sir, proceed.
I asked them what happened to Mr. George James. They haven't answered.
Mr. Proceed, sir.
Alva is the parliamentary
Honorable leader of the opposition, remain focused and proceed.
No, I can't find anybody.
This was Baptiste's first sitting of Parliament since the decision to have Dr. Ernest Hilaire as First Deputy Leader. Hot 7 TV News reached out to the Labrie MP to get his reaction to the exchange in Parliament and indeed his reaction to rumors that since the ushering of Dr. Ernest Hilaire as First Deputy Leader, he has pulled away from the party. Baptiste indicated that he is mature enough not to rage against the passing of power and says he respects the current leadership structure of the party. He also stated that he is still, quote, very much in the red meat of decision-making within the party as a member of the National Council, end quote. Baptiste also stated that not making a contribution to the House on Tuesday had nothing to do with any talk of division within the party, but rather he says there was nothing left to say on that particular incentives bill. Commendation and international intrigue regarding Brant Jean is still ramping up. An American-based law enforcement institution has announced that the 18-year-old will receive an award next week. The Institution of Law Enforcement Administration says Brant was chosen because of empathy and forgiveness he displayed during the sentencing phase of the Amber Geiger trial.
You know, when Botham Jean's brother hugged Amber Geiger, he left just about everyone watching stunned. And now that moment has earned him a prestigious award. Brant Jean will receive an Ethical Courage Award for the empathy and forgiveness he showed Geiger. Moments after she was sentenced to 10 years for killing his brother Botham, Brant told Geiger he forgives her and asked the judge if he could give her a hug. It touched people all over the world and sparked an entire conversation about when it's okay to forgive. Brant Jean will be honored by the Institute for Law Enforcement Administration at a ceremony 1 week from today.
Former Electoral Commissioner Michael Flood is weighing in on the situation in Dominica. Citizens of Dominica and the OAS have been voicing their concern with regard to lack of electoral reform ahead of the announcement of a snap election to be held on the 6th of December 2019. Flood says Dominica's archaic system is an affront to democracy and the ideal of free and fair elections. Citizens of the Commonwealth of Dominica have been clamoring for electoral reform for years. It seemed like the government was moving in that direction when it invited an OAS CARICOM joint mission to Dominica to make recommendations on improving the electoral process. The main recommendations, however, have not been implemented, and so the voices of dissent grew steadily and spilled out into the streets in what turned into violent clashes with police in November when more than 200 protesters tried to march to the president's residence to make a case for electoral reform. Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit strongly condemned the protests and made the case that the very system being protested against had been used successfully in many elections. Former Electoral Commissioner in St. Lucia, Michael Flood, says just because the system has been working for Dominica does not mean that it has been working for democracy.
This is something I have spoken about for the longest while. Let me say here, I believe whilst one may say that it is getting involved in the electionary process of another country, but anyone who believes in true democracy will understand that the electoral process in Dominica needs to change. You have a situation where people who have not contributed to the socio-economic development of Dominica for many years, on election day will find themselves in Dominica, impose a government on Dominicans and leave again. Whilst one may say, okay, we have absentee voting in the US and those big countries. I mean, this is the wide world. But within the Caribbean, small island states like ours and Dominica, I believe we can do better. Because when you do that, what you do is, whether the government succeeds or fails, you have literally imposed the government on those who live in Dominica, and I do not think it is fair.
The August joint report from a special mission by CARICOM, the Commonwealth, and the OAS identified three main areas of concern. One was the removal of deceased persons from the current electoral list. Another was the issuance of photo identification cards to electors to facilitate more accurate identification at the polls. The third was the removal from the current electoral list of all diaspora voters who are ineligible to vote by virtue of being out of the country for more than 5 years. The OAS says sadly the government of Dominica rejected all of these recommendations. Flood is calling on Dominica to do away with its archaic system.
OAS made recommendations after the last election, and even not too long ago followed up on the recommendation, and the powers that be in Dominica refused to accept to that. So I'm saying it is something that needs to be done and be done sooner than later, because we found that people will see our elections as being non-partisan, right? In order to maintain true democracy, I think the system in Dominica needs to change.
The OAS, for its part, issued a full statement on the matter indicating its concern and stated that while the government of Dominica has invited other observers, it has not invited the OAS to send an electoral observation mission. In the Criminal Code of St. Lucia of 2014, Section 30, subsection 1, any national can make a citizen's arrest if they witness a crime. Well, Mayor of Castries, Peterson Francis, is calling on members of the public to play a greater role in apprehending perpetrators of petty crimes within the city. The mayor made the call after reports of an attack on a cruise ship passenger on Saturday afternoon. The incident occurred on the corner of Jeremy and Coral Streets and involved a German national. The Castries mayor, who visited the scene of the incident, expressed outrage, stating, quote, "Citizens of this country should declare war on all criminal elements. We are empowered according to the Criminal Code of St. Lucia to make citizens' arrests. Let us take the fight to them. The time has come for a bold statement to be made, guided by the laws of the land. Let us send this message to them." End quote. Mayor Francis says if only people would be brave enough to make more citizens' arrests, it would bring about a better and more peaceful society. Senator Joachim Henry says nothing in the government's pronouncements thus far have allayed concerns that reconstruction of St. Jude Hospital, currently underway by the government, is anything more than a glorified polyclinic. Jacques Wooding tells us more.
The St. Lucia Labour Party maintains its concerns on the rehabilitation of the St. Jude's Hospital. Having observed the 10th anniversary of the St. Jude's Hospital fire in September of this year, opposition members have called for greater action from the UWP administration to complete the facility. SLP Senator Joachim Henry believes that the issues surrounding the completion of St. Jude's Hospital are of technical nature, and MP Guy Joseph is not qualified to comment on these issues.
Mr. Joseph has gotten involved. He's not a professional, and probably he should allow professionals to speak on St. Jude. But if you follow closely the commencement, the statements he has made from the commencement of this problem on St. Jude, he has misled himself all the way. Certainly, if he subscribed to our national health strategy, a level 4 hospital is a polyclinic. There isn't an international classification for hospital because each jurisdiction would have their own classification. It is Mr. Joseph's responsibility to explain, therefore, what he means by level 4.
Henry goes on to reference the National Health Strategy, which specifies the key differences between a hospital and a polyclinic, and suggests that MP Joseph should visit these documents.
If Mr. Joseph would subscribe to a classification of a hospital, he should say exactly what it means because there is a health strategy, a document which says exactly what level 4 of a facility, health facility, and it is in what is recorded as a polyclinic. So Mr. Joseph certainly has confused and muddied the water. I think it's at best Mr. Joseph probably should stop speaking on this thing and allow the medical professionals to say exactly what's going on. That is my opinion on this.
According to Henry, the approach which the current administration is taking towards such an important issue is absurd.
This, as far as I'm concerned, is the saddest project implementation story in the history of St. Lucia. And as far as I can see, this thing is laced with a lot more secrets and corrupt practices. That's as far as I go.
Henry is adamant that Minister Joseph is way out of his depth on the technical issues of St. Jude. For Hot 7 News, I am Jaka Wooding.
Thank you, Jaka. This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Still to come, to move or not to move the court. The Prime Minister gushes about plans for the South at the Royal St. Lucia Turf Club's Open Day and how these women are redefining the term bike life. These stories and more are coming up after the break.